We went from 115 degree record high temperature, not for just for the month of September, but for Northern California, maybe for California altogether, to this week, and literally a week ago. And this week, we're not even reaching, I think we're probably at like maybe 80 degrees now, but you can see the trees blowing here. We got a little bit of a breeze. So it's just gorgeous. I mean, it's ridiculous. It really is ridiculous how we went from what we were last week to now. But I'm not complaining. Here we are out on a lovely day, going for a ride on the KTM 1290 Super Duke R. And talking about a subject today that will interest those of you who are newer riders who are interested in upgrading to a bigger bike. And for some of you that might mean bigger as in bigger engine, some of you that might mean bigger as in heavier bike, which likely is going to happen if you're moving up in engine size. And for some of you that means a taller bike. And again, all of those things might be true. You might be riding a bigger engine, heavier, taller motorcycle. All of those things might be true for yourself. But today we're going to talk about how to handle some of those, some if not all of those things, as a new rider. I'm looking to level up, right? You're done with your little maybe 125 cc if that's what you started on, maybe 600, 500 cc's, light, about a 300 something, maybe close to 400 pound bike, and you're looking to upgrade. So it's time to upgrade. Let me talk to you today a little bit about what to not to expect necessarily, but that's definitely how to prepare and how to be ready for that next level. So let's just get it right into it. Right after we get onto the freeway, because I want to get ahead of all these people, all of those people. You know what I mean by those people? Cagers. Alright, so for specifically a larger motorcycle, for something that's heavier, maybe bulkier, let's say you're moving up from maybe a Sport Straight A3 or even like a Bolt to a larger motorcycle, maybe in the Softail range if you're on a Harley, or you're upgrading from maybe a Scout to something like a Chief or even a Bagger, you're going to notice that when you're at speed, both of these of your motorcycles aren't going to feel all that different. When you're rolling, things feel very similar. You know, you're not going to have as good a handling per se, and it depends on the motorcycle, but your handling might be a little bit different, but altogether it's not going to feel all too different once you're actually going. Where you're going to find your big difference is trying to move the bike around, especially if you're going from like a 500 pound bike to like a 700 pound bike. That's a pretty big difference, and you're going to notice that when you're trying to park the bike or when you get off to walk the bike somewhere. That's going to make a big difference. And so these are things that you want to ease into. You want to be careful when you're on slopes, whether it's an incline or a decline. The weight of that bike's going to feel a lot more, and you're going to feel it doubly when you're talking about being on a slope of some sort. The same goes for this is a warning to you, because I definitely did this when I upgraded from my Sportster to a Dyna Fat Bob. When you come to a stop sign or a stop light and you're going to turn right, you want to make sure your handlebars are straight. You can roll up to that light or that stop sign, that whatever traffic signal it might be, and if your handlebars are turned and you slow that thing down, your bike's going to have the tendency, especially if you've already started leaning because you're planning on making a right turn, but you have to make that stop. If your handlebars aren't straight and you're leaning the bike over, once you stop, it's going to be a lot more difficult to manage a larger bike, a heavier bike, than it was your smaller beginner motorcycle. So something to take into consideration, especially in a heavier bike, are slow speeds, and especially when you're coming up to signals and you're making a turn right, because especially in like California here, you know, on a red light, I don't know about how it is everywhere else. I'm pretty sure most places on a red light you can turn right. The tendency is you're already into that lean, and that's going to make for some trouble if you're not used to the weight. So anyway, ease yourself into that. And you have to be careful situationally, because you may not be thinking about it, but if you're in a city that has ups and downs, slopes, San Francisco comes to mind, but any place where Utah, you know, hilly or mountainy areas where you're going to be stuck on streets, you're going to have fun on streets that are sloped, you know. Some of us like to ride those kind of roads, especially because slope streets usually mean you're in a canyon or a mountainy area, and you're going to have some pretty good twisties. But what happens is if you're enjoying yourself in that, and then you end up having to stop at an incline or a decline, the weight of that bike is going to it's going to be different. So ease yourself into it. Find places where you can practice and do that before you head on out and get yourself into trouble. The same, I think, goes for a taller bike. I would say definitely as you're working yourself up to into a taller bike, find a curb. If you live in an apartment, there might be a little less access to curbs and stuff, but if you live on the street, or in a house that has a street that has a nice curb, you know, work your way up, get yourself comfortable mounting the bike. There's definitely like you would mounting a horse. If you're working into getting onto the taller bike and you're throwing your leg over, you can definitely mount it like a horse. Put one foot on the peg and then throw your leg over. But all of these things, again, this is all about practice and getting used to the taller bike or a bigger bike. Now, definitely the tip I would give you is, if you're going to use an object or a curb or something for you to step up on, make sure that it's stable. You want to avoid stools or anything that once the weight moves away from the center, that's going to tip over, because that's just a recipe for disaster. It might be readily available in your garage, you know, when you're practicing getting onto a bike, but stools, just, you got to be careful. Some stools are not all stools are made equally, and you definitely want to stay away from a stool that's going to want to tip over, or any kind of step up that's not sturdy. Same goes for sliding. It needs to have some way of keeping itself stable underneath you, whether the weight is right on top or you're pushing away from it. Okay, so the last thing we'll talk about is engine size. So moving up into a more powerful engine, a bigger CC engine that provides more torque, more horsepower. Definitely me getting this Sport Naked bike was a step up from my Fat Bob that provided a lot less horsepower and a lot less torque. And so what I would say, especially if you're moving up a lot, you know, you're ready for that leader bike, or you're ready for that big V-twin, is respect the power. You got to respect it. And another word for respect in this manner, in this situation, is fear. It's not, I don't know why I say fear. It doesn't mean to be afraid of it, but you have to have a healthy fear of that bike, meaning that you can't just think you can get on that bike and just twist that throttle hard, put that thing in sport mode right away. And that's another thing. If you've purchased a motorcycle that's a larger displacement engine that produces a lot more power, you really need to take advantage of the ride modes if it has it. Hopefully it does. You know, if you're getting ride modes have been around for years, so if you've got a relatively newer bike, then take advantage of ride modes. Start out in rain mode. Start out in whatever, maybe a custom mode. That if you have a new bike, you can customize your modes to adjust for the power delivery. And in that way, you're respecting the power. You're respecting the fact that, you know, your previous bike can't do what your new bike can. And ease into it. It's your bike, and you're going to have that thing for a long time, and you want to be riding for a long time, I would hope. So just be mindful of all of these things. I hope that you guys find some of these tips helpful. I hope that you're out there riding and having fun. And that's the big thing, is as long as you're respecting and as long as you're taking into consideration all the things that you should before you upgrade to a larger motorcycle, you're going to be fine. You're going to be fine. If you're new to the channel, make sure you hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. And also, if you like this video, found it helpful, make sure you hit that thumbs up. But guys, that's all I've got for you today. If you're out there riding, please be safe. Be kind to one another. My name is Eric. I'm that one guy. And I am out. out.